Great morning. Welcome to Triple M Monday Morning Motivation. Super excited. I'm one of your hosts, Aubrey Clarke. I'll be joined by Roxy in a little bit. Toby might make an appearance too, our pup. And what we're here to do is we're here to elevate mindsets. We're here to take our level of listening, being, operating, thinking, just everything about us to the next level. And Monday is such a great opportunity to do that. It's the start of your week, and Monday morning especially. So we're here with Triple M Monday Morning Motivation, and we've got an amazing video for you guys today. We've got Steve Jobs' top 10 rules for success. So Steve Jobs is the gentleman that started Apple. So him and another gentleman named Steve Wozniak started Apple very, very long time ago. I believe in the 80s. They started out of their garage. And it has come to be known today, what we know is like all over the world. We're listening to this on a MacBook. iPhone, I'm an iPhone user, iWatches everywhere. And to have that level of impact on the planet, you've got to do some things right. So, Steve Jobs recently did pass away. I believe he had some form of very tough cancer. I can't remember. It's not liver cancer. But the word isn't coming to me. But he had a form of cancer, and he passed away. And I don't believe he was that happy at the end of his life because he focused so much just on building a company and maybe not as much on building his life. And that's also something you can learn from the gentleman. Through great impact, he also got to learn about balance, and we can learn from everybody, both the good and the bad. So without further ado, let's learn about how his rules for success got him to where he is. Top 10 rules for success with Steve Jobs. Let's get it.
A master of innovation and a design perfectionist. He had a net worth of over $8 billion in 2010. He's one of my personal favorite entrepreneurs of all time. He's Steve Jobs from Apple, and here are his top 10 rules for success.
The thing I would say is, when you grow up, you tend to get told that the world is the way it is, and your life is just to live your life inside the world, try not to bash into the walls too much, try to have a nice family life, have fun, save a little money. But life, that's a very limited life. Life can be much broader once you discover one simple fact, and that is everything around you that you call life was made up by people that were no smarter than you. And you can change it. You can influence it. You can build your own things that other people can use. And the minute that you understand that you can poke life and actually something will, if you push in, something will pop out the other side, that you can change it, you can mold it. That's maybe the most important thing, is to shake off this erroneous notion that life is there and you're just going to live in it, versus embrace it, change it, improve it, make your mark upon it. I think that's very important. And however you learn that, once you learn it, you'll want to change life and make it better, because it's kind of messed up in a lot of ways. Once you learn that, you'll never be the same again.
People say you have to have a lot of passion for what you're doing, and it's totally true. And the reason is because it's so hard that if you don't, any rational person would give up. It's really hard, and you have to do it over a sustained period of time. So if you don't love it, if you're not having fun doing it, you don't really love it, you're going to give up. And that's what happens to most people, actually. If you really look at the ones that ended up, being successful, unquote, in the eyes of society, and the ones that didn't, oftentimes it's the ones that are successful loved what they did so they could persevere when it got really tough. And the ones that didn't love it quit because they're sane, right? Who would want to put up with this stuff if you don't love it? So it's a lot of hard work, and it's a lot of worrying constantly. And if you don't love it, you're going to fail. So you got to love it. You got to have passion.
We had absolutely no idea what people were going to do these things when we started out. Matter of fact, the two people it was designed for was Woz and myself, because we couldn't afford to buy a computer kit on the market. So we liberated some parts from Hewlett Packard and Atari, and worked on a design for about 6 months and decided that we would build our own computer. So we built one, and once was up till 4 in the morning for many moons, and we got it working. We showed some of our friends. Immediately, everybody wanted one. And it turned out that it took about 40 hours to build one of these things and about another 20, 30, 40 to debug it. And we had a lot of friends that worked at similar companies who could liberate the parts also. And we found ourselves spending every spare moment of our time helping our friends to build computers. And it was just getting to be a tremendous drain on our lives. So we got the idea one day that we could make a printed circuit board without the parts in it. So these blank printed circuit boards to our friends and probably cut the assembly and debug time down to 5-10 hours. So Woz sold his HP 6 calculator and I sold my van, and we got $1,300 together. And we paid our friend of ours, who was this PC board layout person, $1,300 to do us a layout, and decided we'd sell printed circuit boards at twice what it cost to build them and hopefully recoup our calculator and transportation in some later date. So that's what we did. And I was out trying to peddle PC boards one day and walked into a bike shop, the first bike shop in Mountain View. And Paul Terrell, the then owner of the bike shop, said he would like to take 50 of these computers. And I saw dollar signs in front of my eyes. But he had one catch, which was that he wanted them fully assembled and tested, ready to go, which is a new twist. So we spent the next 5 days on the phone to distributors and convinced the electronics parts distributors around here to give us about $10,000 worth of parts on thin air, just on enthusiasm. So we got the parts and we built 100 computers and we sold 50 of them for cash, and 29 days paid off the distributors. And that's how we got started. So we had 50 computers left over. Well, that meant we had to sell them. So then we started worrying about marketing, worrying about distribution, got on the phone to the other computer stores around the country. And gradually the whole thing began to build momentum. And at that point in time, we had some feeling that we were onto something, but the feeling is so different than the experience of actually seeing it happen right now. It's entirely different. And sometimes a lot of people ask, well, did you know it was going to mushroom into this phenomenon? And you can say, yeah, we planned it out. We had lead on a piece of paper. But it's different than the experience of seeing 500 people working at Apple Computers. Very different than the experience of seeing a 5-year-old kid who really understands the tool that he's got in front of him.
When you first got the job as CEO, you got a call from Steve Jobs and he offered you some advice?
Well, he didn't call to offer me advice, but we had worked together on a Nike-Apple collaboration called Nike Plus. So we took what Apple knows, what Nike knows, and brought a new technology to the market. Anyway, long story short, he said, hey, congratulations, it's great, you're going to do a great job. I said, well, do you have any advice? And he said, no, you're great. And then there was a pause, and he goes, well, I do have some advice. He goes, Nike makes some of the best product in the world. I mean, product that you lust after, absolutely beautiful, stunning product. But you also make a lot of crap. He said, just get rid of the crappy stuff and focus on the good stuff. And then I expected a little pause and a laugh, but there was a pause with no laugh at the end. Yeah. And he was absolutely right.
The greatest people are self-managing. They don't need to be managed. Once they know what to do, they'll go figure out how to do it. They don't need to be managed at all. What they need is a common vision. And that's what leadership is. What leadership is having a vision, being able to articulate that so the people around you can understand it, and getting a consensus on a common vision. We wanted people that were insanely great at what they did, but we're not necessarily those seasoned professionals, but who had at the tips of their fingers and in their passion the latest understanding of where technology was and what we could do with that technology, and who wanted to bring that to lots of people. So the neatest thing that happens is when you get a core group of 10 great people, it becomes self-policing as to who they let into that group. So I consider the most important job of someone like myself is recruiting.
We agonized over hiring. We had interviews. I could go back and look at some of the interviews. They would start at 9 or 10 in the morning and go through dinner. A new interviewee would talk to everybody in the building at least once, and maybe a couple times, and then come back for another round of interviews, and then we'd all get together and talk about it. And then before we fill out an application. No, they're not filled out.
The most critical part of the interview, at least to my mind, was when we finally decided we liked them enough to show them the Macintosh prototype. and then we sat them down in front of it. And if they just kind of were bored or said, this is a nice computer, we didn't want it. We wanted their eyes to light up and them to get really excited, and then we knew they were one of us.
And everybody just wanted to work, not because it was work that had to be done, but it was because something that we really believed in that was just going to really make a difference. And that's what kept the whole thing going.
We all wanted exactly the same thing. Instead of spending our time arguing about what the computer should be, we all knew what the computer should be, and we just went and did it. We went through that stage in Apple where we went out and we thought, oh, we're going to be a big company, let's hire professional management. We went out and hired a bunch of professional management. It didn't work at all. Most of them were bozos. They knew how to manage, but they didn't know how to do anything. And so if you're a great person, why do you want to work for somebody you can't learn anything from? And you know what's interesting? You know who the best managers are? They're the great managers who never, ever want to be a manager, but decide they have to be a manager because no one else is going to be able to do as good a job as them.
After hiring 2 professional managers from outside the company and firing them both, Jobs gambled on Debbie Coleman, a member of the Macintosh team. 32 years old, an English literature major with an MBA from Stanford, Debbie was a financial manager with no experience in manufacturing.
I mean, there's no way in the world anybody else would give me this chance to run this kind of operation. And I don't kid myself about that. It's an incredible high risk, both for myself personally and professionally, and for Apple as a company, to put a person like myself in this job. I mean, they're really betting on a lot of things. We're betting that my skills at organizational effectiveness, override all those, lack of technology, lack of experience, lack of, time in manufacturing. So it's a big risk, and I'm just an example. And every single person on the Mac team, almost to your, entry-level person, you could say that about. This is a place where people were afforded incredibly unique opportunities to prove that they could write the book again.
Inscribed inside the casing of every Macintosh, unseen by the consumer, are the signatures of the whole team. This is Apple's way of affirming that their latest innovation is a product of the individuals who created it, not the corporation.
It's very interesting. I was worth about over $1 million when I was 23, and over $10 million when I was 24, and over $100 million when I was 25. And it wasn't that important because I never did it for the money. I think money is a wonderful thing because it enables you to do things. It enables you to invest in ideas that don't have a short-term payback and things like that. But especially at that point in my life, it was not the most important thing. The most important thing was the company, the people, the products we were making, what we were going to enable people to do with these products. So I didn't think about it a great deal. I never sold any stock. Just really believed that the company would do very well over the long term.
Our goal is to make the best personal computers in the world and to make products we are proud to sell and would recommend to our family and friends. And we want to do that at the lowest prices we can. But I have to tell you, there's some stuff in our industry that we wouldn't be proud to ship, that we wouldn't be proud to recommend to our family and friends. And we can't do it. We just can't ship junk. So there are thresholds that we can't cross because of who we are. But we want to make the best personal computers in the industry. Slice of the industry that wants that too. And what you'll find is our products are usually not premium priced. You go and price out our competitors' products, and you add the features that you have to add to make them useful, and you'll find in some cases they are more expensive than our products. The difference is we don't offer stripped down, lousy products. We just don't offer categories of products. If you move those aside and compare us with our competitors, I think we compare pretty favorably. And a lot of people have been doing that and saying that now for the last 18 months.
Yeah.
Mr. Jobs, you're a bright and influential man.
Here it comes.
Dad, sad and clear that on several counts you've discussed, you don't know what you're talking about. I would like, for example, for you to express in clear terms how, say, Java, in any of its incarnations, addresses the ideas embodied in OpenDoc. And when you're finished with that, perhaps you could tell us what you personally have been doing for the last 7 years.
You know, you can please some of the people some of the time, but one of the hardest things when you're trying to affect change is that people like this gentleman are right in some areas. I'm sure that there are some things OpenDoc does, probably even more that I'm not familiar with, that nothing else out there does. And I'm sure that you can make some demos, maybe a small commercial app that demonstrates those things. The hardest thing is, how does that fit in to a cohesive, larger vision that's going to allow you to sell $8 billion, $10 billion of product a year? And one of the things I've always found is that you've got to start with the customer experience and work backwards to the technology. You can't start with the technology and try to figure out where you're going to try to sell it. And I've made this mistake probably more than anybody else in this room. And I've got the scar tissue to prove it. And I know that it's the case. And as we have tried to come up with a strategy and a vision for Apple, it started with what incredible benefits can we give to the customer? Where can we take the customer? Not
awesome stuff. They had some great video. Some old school stuff. Let's start with Roxy. What'd you get?
All right. So some of the things that I picked up on, I really loved how he talked about how you have to have passion and you have to have love for what you do. You know, because he said if he didn't love like building computers, then Apple would have never been Apple. Why? Because any moment of failure and the work and the tired and the stress and all these things that come with achieving like your dream and your vision, it's gonna take work. And if you don't really love it, then you're gonna fail, you're gonna quit. And that's why most people fail in what they do, because they don't really love what they do, if you're seeing like with the dollar sign type thing. So I thought that was really awesome. And then I loved how he, the second guy, the CEO of Nike, and the conversation that they had, and how he asked Steve Jobs, like, do you have any advice for me? And he was just like, no. And then afterwards he did. He's like, you know what? He's like, you guys have a lot of great stuff, but you guys also sell a lot of crap, you know? And I really liked how it's just like, get rid of the bad stuff, you know? And that could be like in your life, personal, like in all areas of stuff, like in our lives, we carry some bad stuff, quote unquote. So just like start to try and eliminate those things in order for the greater things to come forth. So I really love that. And then I really loved how he talked about building a team and creating a vision like inside of that. And that's how the team will grow. That's how the team will prosper. And to really get the team to be insanely great at what they do. Like that, like really hit like for me. You know, what I imagine is just like in Herbalife, it's all about team building. But imagine if you can create a team that is just like on fire and insanely great at delivering health results. That's like super great at delivering like business results, you know, personal development results, like results on results on results, like insanely great at what they do. Like just like get that quote. Like for me, that was like one of the quotes that stood out to me the most. And then I really loved also, again, back to like, don't do it for the money. He did say, he's like, money is a wonderful thing, it does allow you to do many things that you're not allowed to do if you don't have the money. But don't confuse the two. You know, he's like, do it for like the bigger vision and the bigger purpose, and then the money will flow. The money will follow. But the money, remember, is only like a tool, a vehicle for us to be able to do more. You know, like one of my dreams is for us to have a nonprofit organization for animals. Right now, at this point in time, I can't do that. Why? Like, there's just all these little different things. But I wanted to be able to give back to like something like that. And those are the kind of things that money will allow you to do. So I really love that. And then I'm going to do this last one. I really loved how he talked about being products of your product. You know, like really loving your product and not selling like crap and all this stuff. But just for me, what it reminded me of is like in Herbalife, we get to be products of our own products. You know, the more that you use the products, the greater your health results, the more energy that you have, the more that you begin to share these things. You know, like he said, he's like, we wouldn't be able to share with people a computer that is not so great, you know, and if you use all the products in Herbalife, you're going to want to share them because you know that they're that great. So be a product of your own product, and I will leave off with that.
Great shares, great takeaways. Some of the ones that really resonated with me are the first one I love. He said, you know, life doesn't have to be a certain way. And the minute you realize, like, this is, like, if you really get this, this will change your life. If you realize that the rules that you believe are rules were made by people no smarter than you. Like, I was talking to my dad yesterday, and we're sitting there talking, and he's like, well, you know, you want to eat like a vegetarian, and you want to do all this. And I'm like, he's quoting all these things. And I said, Dad, the biggest thing for me is that I had to realize that things don't have to be a certain way just because they've been that way. Like, I was talking to my brother too. He chimed in. He was like, well, does Toby, your dog, does he eat meat? Can we give him a steak bone? I was like, no. He likes bananas. He likes blue. He's like, well, he comes from a wolf. Wolves ate meat. I was like, just because they had to at one point because of situation doesn't mean they have to now. They didn't have to physically as far as their physiology. They could survive without it. They had to environmentally, which means as times change, they can also change. They don't have to take all those habits. So, for example, you know, cavemen at one time, if you believe in evolution, had to eat a certain way. There was no fridge. There was no bread machine. They didn't even know how to do a harvest. They had to eat a certain way because they had to survive. But then things changed. Now you can get by because you have a fridge. You have all these new things that can help you so you don't have to be restricted by necessity. You can now build from creativity. And really that changed my mind because I'm like, well, what else have I been doing just because I believe it's how it has to be done? There is no has to. The only absolutes are physics, meaning you can't change gravity as we know it right now. You can't change time. It always moves forward. So those things are fixed as we know them right now. Everything else is up for grabs. You know, they say Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, they said he's never attached to anything. The only thing he respects is physics. If it's anything else, he'll change it. He came in, he changed the booking industry. He came in, he's also changing the retail industry because he was never attached to any law. There are no laws that are not gravity or time. Everything else can be changed. So if you think anything in your life is a way because it has to be, your parents said it, everybody else is doing it, that doesn't mean anything. You got to remember that at one time, new things are always looked at like crazy, and then in the future, it'll be the norm. If you would have told people 100 years ago, Monday morning, you would get on a video call and be able to see people from around the world and talk about elevating your life, they would laugh at you. They'd be like, what the heck are you talking about? They'd be, number one, elevating your life. What are you talking about? Number two, seeing people. What are you, crazy? But now it's normal. If you would have thought like Edison, you would be a billionaire because he thought like he didn't have any rules. So I really love that. Steve Jobs, I always love for that one. You got to have passion. Passion is the fuel. That's really what I took from that. Passion is what's going to get you. I don't like to say failure because failure, everybody fails. Failure is a part of the process. The difference is if you love it enough to stay in the game, you can win, because the passion is the fuel to keep going through the ups and downs, which come in every single journey. The only journey that doesn't have failures is the journey that doesn't exist. The people that aren't even in the game, the people that are sitting on the sidelines, they don't have failures. Why? They're not in the game. How you going to miss a shot if you don't take it? So you don't have to worry about failure. But if you're in the game, you got to worry about failure because it's part of the passion. Managers are the doers. They brought in managers and they just tried to manage. I never wanted to be a manager. I actually love Herbalife because you never have to be a boss. I never wanted to tell people what to do, and I definitely didn't want to be told what to do. In Herbalife, what's awesome, if you're a member on the team or you're a health coach, is you get to do whatever you want to do. And if other people want to grow and they want to learn from you, they learn from you. If they don't, they don't. Awesome. That's what's so dope. You just do you, boo-boo. As I tell people, do you, boo-boo. That's really the mantra in Herbalife. They're going to say that extravaganza with it. Don't do it for the money. One thing I heard about Steve Jobs is that in his apartments, he didn't even really have furniture. You would go in his house, he didn't really have anything because he didn't really do it for the money. He did it to see what he could do for the world. And that's pretty cool. You know, there's a mixed review about Steve Jobs. I heard he was kind of a jerk sometimes at his work. I don't support that, but there's things you can learn from everybody. And one thing I learned from Steve Jobs is the power of passion, the power of being focused on creating whatever you want, regardless of what people think. So those are a few of our takeaways. Let's get a few from the line. Who's got some takeaways for us? Let me see you raise your hand. Steve, you got one for us? I'm going to unmute you. What up? Hit us with it.
Quick, something that Roxy mentioned about money, that money's not everything, but having more allows you to do more with it. I thought that was awesome. And then that one you mentioned about that conversation you had with your dad about how things are supposed to be and all this other stuff. I still have those conversations with my dad too. And I like that tip because it's all creativity. Like it's us. We own our lives and we have the opportunity to change things if we want to, and to eat certain things that are better for us, healthier for us and stuff, and not stick to the old ways of the traditional ways of eating, meats and all this other traditional foods that, comes from our culture and stuff like that. So those were the two tips I had today, man. Got on a little late there.
No worries. Great work, Steve. Love it. Great work. Let's get it. Who else wants to share? Let's get one or two more shares. Who else is excited to share? Let me see a hand up. Or I love just calling on people too. That's always fun.
Hey, Aubrey.
Yeah. Is that Jay Stevens?
Yeah, it's me.
Let's get
I thought that how Steve Jobs talked about starting with the customer service or starting with the customer. I mean, that principle alone, like just when we're talking to our clients and even with our coaches, being able to listen to our clients and see what it is they need and what it is they want. Before, like, I used to always just present a bunch of information to people. Like, oh, you got this many grams of fiber, this many grams of protein, and not starting with, hey, let me get an understanding of what it is you're looking for. So starting with the client or starting with the customer and then implementing or telling them about the product, or creating a plan that works for the customer. I thought that was really huge.
Super epic. One thing in Jeff Bezos' biography, they said when they were doing, Jeff Bezos is the founder of Amazon. They said when they had meetings, like the managers and all things, they would leave a chair open at the table and be like, yo, what are you doing? Like, we don't got enough chairs anyway. They're like, that's for the customer. We got to remember who we're doing this for. That type of thinking is why Apple is what it is why Amazon is what it is. You got to remember that's who you're here to serve. Business is just service. All you're doing is giving to, greatness is just service to many. That's why Apple is great. Amazon is great. They serve many. Remember, that's the focus, man. Great takeaway. We'll get one more takeaway if we got one. If anybody's really eager to share.
Just unmute yourself.
Just unmute yourself if you want to jump on. You guys are still thinking. I like it. Razine, you got one for us?
I knew you were going to call on me.
Let's go.
Of course. I always have something. One of I think the greatest things for me about this call, when he's talking about basically like managers the ones who have the experience as managers, they weren't the best ones. They didn't know how to work. A lot of times people don't want to give inexperienced people the opportunity to do things, but sometimes it's better to give someone who's an experienced opportunity to do something, because that person is going to go harder. That person is going to have more passion because they don't want to fail. And it's important to me because it's like the areas that I'm going to step in career-wise, I don't have all the experience. However, I have the passion, I have the drive, and I have the mindset that I'm not going to let those down who gave me the opportunity. So I think that's one of the greatest takeaways for me this morning.
Super epic. He said the best managers are the doers that don't want to be managers, but no one else can do it better. That was epic. Super great stuff. Thank you for the share, Roz. Let's get it. All right, you guys. So now we're gonna get into sharing this. We're gonna upload it to YouTube. Let's share this to everybody we know. Pay this forward. Remember, this gives value and benefit to everybody. Your clients, if you're on the team, if you're a client, send it to your friends and family. If you're just checking out what we do here, as in Triple M, first time checking out, thank you guys for joining us. If you're excited about learning more about our community, getting health results, or joining the team and paying it forward, definitely reach out to us or whoever invited you to the call. Super excited and grateful. It's going to be an amazing week. Let's get it, you guys. Everybody come off mute, give us some quick energy. Where you at? Hey!
Yeah, let's go.
You guys have a great week. Adios. Happy Monday. Peace.